Hello, it's Alex, the Booktubers. Today I'm doing a tag video and it is the Horror Hearts Booktube tag part 2, which was created by Regina over at Regina's Haunted Library, and it was maybe a bit more relevant for around Valentine's Day, but I'm a bit late to the party, but still wanted to do the tag anyway. And before I get into the questions, yes, I had my hair done recently. It was time for a change, and yeah, I've actually been wanting to cut it shorter for some months, but yeah, what with shingles and just general procrastination, it took a while for me to take the plunge. So onto the tag. There are 12 questions. The first one is, what is the darkest love story you've ever read? Novel or novella? And one of my first thoughts was The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, which is what Regina used as her answer too, and I definitely agree. So I wanted to pick another option for this answer and really couldn't not pick Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison, because that is a love story of sorts, but yeah, both characters have some very messed up proclivities, and when they come together and share their feelings, yeah, things get even grosser. Things get very disgusting, and yeah, I know this one is a somewhat polarising read, but I thought it was pretty great. It was very entertaining and funny at times even, but yeah, definitely some dark and quite disturbing subject matter. So bear that in mind if you want to give it a try. Question 2 is, what literary character do you love to hate? And I am going with Irina from Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. So Irina is a photographer, and yeah, she's just not a very nice person. She also might be insane, and yeah, she does some horrible things, and even at the good end, she just treats people really terribly. So yeah, she's definitely a character I really enjoyed reading about, even though she was so awful, and yeah, some really messed up things happen in that book. Question 3 is, who is your literary crush, character or author? And I couldn't really think of a character or author that I would say I have any kind of crush on, so I kind of thought a little bit outside the box for this one and picked someone on a book cover who I remember having a crush on when I was a kid, so this is going back a while, but yeah, I still have my copy of the book. It's a choose your own adventure book. It's The Worst Day of Your Life by Edward Packard, and yeah, I apparently thought the guy on the cover was very crush-worthy at the time, so thought I would share that embarrassing tidbit with you, because why not? Question 4, who is your horror movie crush, character or actor? And I probably have quite a few. Definitely Christian Bale in American Psycho. I think that speaks for itself. Ethan Hawke in Sinister, in his sexy cardigan. I've always, yeah, appreciated classic beauties like Ingrid Pitt, especially in Countess Dracula, and Edwige Fenech. I never know how you pronounce her last name, Fenech, but yeah, stunning. And this character in Curse of the Crimson Altar, I mean, hell yes. And there's something strangely attractive about Michael Ironside as well. I can't be the only person that thinks that, right? And yeah, other than that, I mean, really any character in any 1980s horror film, really, just yeah, give me all of the spandex and the big hair, thanks. Okay, question 5. What horror writer, living or deceased, would you like to have a date with? platonic or otherwise. And yeah, I had to think about this one, but I decided to go with a group meetup of Kathy Koja and Mike Thorne, both fantastic authors and super cool people, because I'd watched a couple of online events they did where the two of them were, you know, having a conversation, discussion, and yeah, they were just so interesting. They're both super interesting people and very talented, and I just think, yeah, having a dinner date with the three of us would be a really good time. Question 6. Name a darkly romantic movie you love, horror or non-horror. And I actually picked one for each. So horror, it's got to be Candyman. I mean, maybe not your typical romance, but it's a love story at the heart of it, really. And, you know, that's the whole reason that the story is set into motion and why Candyman is, doing what he does. So definitely that one, it's one of my favourites. And non-horror, but still a dark romance of sorts, is Secretary, starring Maggie Gyllenhaal and James Spader. And admittedly, it has been some years since I've seen this one, but I remember really liking it when I did watch it. And yeah, it's a maybe unconventional relationship between the two of them. And yeah, I thought it was a really great movie. Question 7. Best love or sex scene in a horror movie. And I'm a big David Cronenberg fan, and there's generally sex of some sort in most, if not all, of his films. So yeah, any of those. But I also did want to mention a couple of recent ones that I've seen, you know, probably over the past year or two. One of them is a sex scene in Daniel Isn't Real, which is a really great film, and I don't hear too many people talk about, but I definitely recommend it. But there's a sex scene between two characters. It's like the first time they're, you know, getting together, and it's not like a sexy scene per se, but there was just something about the naturalness of the way the scene played out that I really liked. And it's been a while since I've seen this, so I'm going off memory, so I might be misquoting, but you know, they're getting down to it, and he says to her something like, "Is this okay?" I don't think I've ever seen that in any kind of sex scene on film or TV, but I just thought that was really cool, you know. Consent is sexy, good communication is sexy, so yeah, that scene just really stood out to me in that respect. And then another one was in the TV show Brand New Cherry Flavour, which I really enjoyed. And there's a sex scene between the main character and someone else. I won't spoil it in case you haven't seen it. But, you know, two very good looking people, and they have a sex scene, and it's like Cronenbergian body horror sex scene. So I was, yeah, definitely here for that. And question 8 is worst love or sex scene in a horror movie. And yeah, not necessarily the worst sex scene, but just a funny one that came to mind was in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And there's a couple getting it on in an RV and, you know, listening to some hair metal as you do. And she really wants to wait till the end of the song before they, you know, have their moment together. And he's impatient. And but she's adamant on, you know, them holding out, and it's going to be great. But then of course Jason comes along and cuts the power, and yeah, you can probably guess what happens, because technically the song did end. Anyway, I've always thought that scene was hilarious. Question 9. Most deliciously decadent food or drink indulgence. And I do have a sweet tooth, so I do like, yeah, really any form of sugar-based item. So big fan of chocolate, ice cream, cake, etc. But I think a really delicious and decadent item within that whole food group for me would be tiramisu, because yeah, it's just so good. And drink-wise, yeah, probably red wine or something like that. You can't really go wrong with a glass of red wine. Question 10. Best darkly romantic short story. And again, I'm going a little bit off question here. I couldn't really think of a specific short story that fit the bill, but a graphic novel I think that works is The Crow by James O'Barr. And yeah, I've always loved the film, but yeah, I only read the graphic novel last year or the year before and loved it. But again, like Candyman, it's not the, you know, main part of the story in the sense it doesn't take up as much of the page time in a sense, but it is at the heart of the story because it all comes from this relationship that, yeah, was cut short, and the story comes from that love, that romance. So yeah, it's definitely a dark story. So I think this one works. And on that note, how did I forget Brandon Lee as the Crow as being a crush, and also Tony Todd in Candyman? Like, yeah, he has such a presence in that film and yeah, is really rather seductive. So yeah, both of those, yeah, definitely answers for the crush-worthy horror film characters too. Question 11, read a darkly romantic or erotic poem. And I kind of suck at poetry. Yeah, I don't know, I've just never really been able to get into poetry, and so there definitely weren't any particular poems that came to mind for this question. So again, I'm going outside of the box here, like by some miles. But I thought it would be funny to read you some snippets from The Nursery by William W. Johnstone. If you've ever read any of his work, you'll know just how bonkers his stories are, and that he kind of, yeah, writes, I don't know, like a 13-year-old boy when it comes to the sex scenes. So yeah, this is, and I flicked through this book earlier today to find some good sections to share. There's definitely some that I'm just not going to read out here because they're actually really gross. But there's a couple of amusing ones here that I thought you might also appreciate. So this part is describing a female character. She was one of those blue-eyed, blonde-haired southern country girls so much is written of and about. 5 feet 4 or 5 and built to last. Everything in the right place and plenty of it. She wore no-nonsense men's Levi's, and if worn any tighter would have been indecent. They hugged her groin in an enviable embrace, and her breasts were high and full. She stood before him, hands on lovely hips. She smiled, exposing teeth that were very white and perfectly formed. She was gorgeous, her skin smooth and without blemish, lips full, no lipstick or gloss, cheeks with just a touch of nature's own makeup. Yeah, ugh. And let's find another one. Okay, this one's getting a little more graphic. Her breasts were mounds of tanned ivory. Like, what does that even mean? Tipped with erect, taut nipples set in half-dollar-sized circles of dark reddish brown. Her skin, as she peeled off her jeans, was without blemish. She was evenly tanned over her entire body, and Mike realised when she sunbathed it was in the nude. She turned facing him, and his eyes were fixed on the honey-coloured pubic hair. The dim light in the room glistened wetly off the light moisture that beaded the opening of love. Blah blah blah. She then knelt down and unbuckled his trousers, pulling them from his muscular legs. Next came his shorts. His maleness sprang free, hard and swollen. And then blah blah blah. With her hands on each side of his waist, she worked up and down on him. Tears rolled down her face, streaking the beauty as a climax gripped her and shook her in a firm but gentle hand. She bit short a howl of pleasure and then decided to hell with it. She screamed as one climax followed another. The juices flowed from her, wetting Mike's belly as he gripped her buttocks with his big hands, holding on for the duration. He felt as though he was trapped in a willing snare of wet heat as he plunged downward, taking all he offered her. So yeah, anyway, that's just a little sampling for you of William Johnstone's writing, which is, yeah, probably the furthest you could get from sexy or erotic. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. And on that note, we are now on to the final question. Question 12 is to tag a fellow booktuber who may or may not be your booktube crush. And I would tag anyone who would like to do this tag. I would love to hear people's answers to these questions because they're really fun. But yeah, don't want to put any pressure on anyone, but I will tag a few people, and if they would like to do it, then go ahead. And anyone else that would like to, consider yourself tagged. But I will tag specifically Kasia from Kasia's Book Cemetery, Lydia from Typical Books, and Pax from Pax Panic. So yeah, no pressure of course, but if you want to do it, I would love to hear your answers. So that is it for the tag. Thank you, Regina, for creating this tag and coming up with these questions. It was really fun and something a bit different to think about and put together. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, didn't give you all nightmares with the William Johnstone sex scenes. I know I'm gonna go take a hot shower and scrub off the grime from reading that. So yeah, maybe gargle with some bleach, you know, just to really get that taste out of my mouth. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!